Carla, the Crazy Cross Stitch Lady. Welcome to my craft room. I'm going to do not really a tutorial, but just showing you ways that you can experiment with floss coverage if you haven't done that before and you're unfamiliar with the material. So I thought I would do that because I need to actually do it myself. So I'm going to show you what I have done to help me prepare for one of the projects that I want to work on. And just as a little side note, I am looking out my window at the lake and we have two geese. They are Canadian geese and they like to, I guess they've made this one of their home places because they come back every year. And they came back a few days ago and I fondly call them George and Matilda. So maybe in another video, I will be able to maybe show you a little footage, or maybe I can, if I can catch them today, I can tack it onto this video. So we'll see how it goes. All right, so anyway, what you see in front of you in my hoop is 25 count Lugana. Now 25 count, I think Lugana is all that it comes in as far as I know. So this is a white Lugana from Zweigart. And what I decided to do was experiment a little bit with this because I wanted to start a heaven and earth design. And with heaven and earth designs, they typically call for 25 count and they say do it, excuse me, 1/1. So if you're new to stitching or newer to stitching and you aren't really familiar with some of these terms or with the fabric, I'm going to show you some of that today. So let me zero in on this a little bit. Let me see if I can zoom in here. I'll scoot this down a little bit. And there, we can come in a little bit closer there. Okay, so before I started, or I haven't started yet, but before I start, I'm thinking about what kind of coverage I want for this, because if you're doing it over one, what that means is that you are going over one thread, or it would be like one of these little squares. If you do it over two, you're stitching over two threads or two of these squares. So I decided to experiment and see, okay, so how do I want to do this? How much coverage do I want or need for my Haid piece? So the only way that you're going to find out and really know for sure what you want to do is to actually do a little bit of experimenting. So I took a piece of this fabric and I decided to do a little bit of stitching. And I wanted to do, usually I like to do a block of 10 by 10 because that gives me a really good idea. But this is pretty small count, so I just really couldn't handle it. So I did a couple of rows each. So this first one right here, I don't know if I can zoom in anymore or not. Yeah, there we go. All right, now we're cooking. We're cooking with Crisco now. Okay, so this right here is 2/1, which means I took two threads and I stitched it over one square. Now this is 25 count. Typically 25 count is meant to be done over two for the most part. A lot of people will do, if they want to do slightly larger X's or larger designs, they'll do it over two. Which if you translate that into Aida, if you're more familiar with Aida, that would be almost like a 12.5 count. Like normal count that most people do is 14 count. So this would be like 12.5 count. So a little bit larger X's than 14 count. But with the Haid, you're supposed to do it over one. So this is 25 count, which means the squares are very small. And I don't know how my eyes are going to handle this, so we'll see. So this is 2/1, so I took two threads like you normally would, and I did it over one square each. And you can see how it almost looks like they're really bunched up. It's tight. It was tight in there when I was doing that. So that's the coverage for that. Well, then for this one here, I still used 2 threads, but I did tent stitches. And if you don't remember what a tent stitch is, this is a half a stitch. So it's just half of an X. So that was, I thought, a little bit better, but actually not a whole lot. So I wasn't too happy with either one of those. And then this is what your X's look like if you do it over 2. So this is called 2 over 2, which means that it is 2 threads stitched over 2 of these squares, or you know, two pieces of floss stitched over 2. And this looks decent. It looks fine. Now, if we look over at this one, this is where I switched gears a little bit and I went over 1. I kind of messed up here, but I'm just experimenting, so I didn't care. So I just stopped that. I just cut it off. I didn't even do anything. I didn't tie it off or anything. So this is doing a full X over 1. So this is 1 over 1, which is 1 thread over 1, you know, what we call a thread would be a square. And I like this coverage. It still seems a little tight to me when I'm stitching it, but it looks, to me, this looks much better than this. This looks too bunched up. I like this a lot better. Now this is 1 over 1 tent stitch, which is a half stitch. So I took 1 piece of floss and I did it over 1 thread or 1 square. And this is okay, and I think a lot of people actually do this when they stitch a hade. They will use tent stitches. I don't know that I like the coverage on that. There's not quite enough. I think I actually like the full stitch a little bit more. And then, just for the heck of it, I thought, well, let's see what 1 thread over 2 does. So these are full X's, but I did it over 2 just like I did here, but this is 1 thread instead of 2. And this is a kind of coverage where if I wanted to do some piece that maybe I just wanted things to look really light and airy, then I might do this instead of this. When I do my Barn Sweet Barn stars, I'm going to use a 25 count material. It calls for 25 count, so I'll use 25 count. But I'm going to do it 2 over 2 like this. So I think it will work out. It'll make the stars a little bit bigger than if it was, you know, a regular 14 count. And I think that's kind of the look that we want. So I'm going to go with that for my Barn Sweet Barn. But after looking at all of this, I think for the hade that I want to do, I'm going to do 1 over 1. And so that's going to be, it'll look like this. I like the coverage on that, but it's not as bunchy looking as this is right here. So that is how you can experiment a little bit with these fabrics, especially if it's a fabric you've never used before. Don't be afraid to do some experimenting and just, you know, see what it's going to look like, because everybody's a little different. We all like slightly different types of coverage. And so again, I mean, you can listen to what other people say, but you honestly won't know what you're going to like best until you try it. So, you know, don't be afraid to buy just, this is a small piece of fabric. I didn't invest in anything large. I spent just a few dollars on it. And I can use the rest of it for ornaments or other things if I want to. So it's not wasted. So, you know, just don't be afraid to experiment, because that really is the only way that you're going to know what you like and what you don't like. And you can look at what other people have done. And I even asked for advice on some of this stuff online, like in my embroidery group. And of course, when you ask for advice about stuff like this, then guess what? You're going to get just as many answers as you have people chiming in. And it really, unless they give you details about why they prefer it, it's not really going to help you very much. So I just wanted to actually show you what these different coverages look like. So maybe that will help you a little bit. But again, I would do it myself and just see what you like. And of course, the more you cross stitch, the more that you're going to get a feel for what you truly like and what you don't like. So I just wanted to come on here for this floss tube and show you this, and just so you can just kind of see what I'm doing here and how I experiment with different types of coverage. And while I'm on here, I did want to show you, what did I want to show you? I'm going to show you this one pattern. It's a free pattern. I have never done Blackwork, and that's one thing I also want to try is Blackwork. And if you're not familiar with Blackwork, you can basically do it with back stitching. And I show you in one of my previous tutorials about back stitching, and I will try to put a link in here somewhere to that back stitching tutorial, because you actually, it's like an outline, but you're actually doing it backwards. You come up in one hole, and then you're going backwards to the next hole, and then come back in the next hole and go backwards and up and back and up and back. That's how you do it. It's not difficult once you start doing it. It's not difficult at all. But the one thing here is that there's also something called the whole beam stitch, which is where you stitch like every other stitch, and then you come back and fill in the ones that you didn't do before. And the reason they do that is that typically Blackwork used to be done more on clothing to decorate it, and they wanted the back side to look exactly like the front. They wanted them to be mirror images, which I totally get. Nowadays, if a lot of people who do Blackwork end up framing it and stuff, you're never going to see the back, so it doesn't matter. So a lot of people just end up doing back stitching and just using the back stitch. So I want to show you this pattern. It's a freebie chart, and it is from Michaela Lerner from the Cross Stitching Guild, and you can look for her on Facebook. So I just wanted to show you this. I am going to probably try this one on, I'm really thinking, I bought some black Aida. I've not really stitched a lot on black, and so I thought I better get some Aida. So I found this roll. This is Zweigart. So, and you can't see it very well through here, but it's black 14 count Aida. And I thought I may take some of this, and just, purple's my favorite color, so I might take some purple and just fill this in. Now these solid ones, these are full cross stitches, and you can do it any color you want. Now Blackwork typically was done in black, and that used to be the reason why it was called Blackwork, but now Blackwork is really more of a designation for a type of stitch work rather than the color. I tried to explain this to my husband, and he said it really should be black. I'm like, well, yeah, okay, but I'm going to do it my way. So I just wanted to show this to you in case you might be interested in trying some Blackwork. If you've never tried Blackwork, I think it's a neat little heart, and it looks like it looks complicated, but honestly, it's like you basically would have to take it just one section at a time. And so I think I'm going to try this out. I'm not sure when, hopefully in the next couple of weeks, and then I can show you what I've done on it. So I'm going to try that and see if I like Blackwork. I may decide that I don't like this stuff at all, and I just won't do it. But I think this will be something pretty to work on to try it. You never know whether you're going to like something or not unless you try. And so I always encourage you to try, experiment with different colors, experiment with fabrics, experiment with beads, just all kinds. There are so many things out there in the cross stitch world now that just, they weren't there when I started stitching. And of course, now that was back in the early 1990s when I started stitching, but it was like white, off-white, and it was pretty much either Aida or some people stitched on linen if they did samplers and stuff, but that was pretty much it. And we had DMC, and that was it. And so I feel like this whole world has been opened up, and with all the FlossTube videos out there, where you can get so many wonderful ideas. And so, I mean, just if you really enjoy this, just have fun with it, experiment with things. If you find something that you don't like, oh well, just don't do it anymore. You know, it's a hobby and it's something meant for us to enjoy and de-stress, and just it's a wonderful world out there. So I just wanted to come on here and show you my experimentation with these different floss coverages and show you the black work that I think I'm going to try to do. And so that is it. So this will be a shorter one, but I just wanted to show you that. And I hope you are very, very creative. Be wonderfully blessed, and I will see you later.